Good morning and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this very special segment today on the 9th day of December 2022. And what a beautiful day it is right here in Brisbane, 23 degrees and cloudy. The forecast is to get up to about 28 degrees today, and there will be patches of cloud and sunshine throughout the day. Well, ladies and gentlemen, leading into the weekend, what are we looking at? We will look at all the functions and events right after the news, and then we will have the Daily India report and the upcoming functions and events. Right now, let's take the look at news in brief.
Skyrocketing energy prices will be top of the agenda when National Cabinet meets virtually this afternoon, with the government keen to give Australians some reassurance on power costs before Christmas. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is still recovering from COVID, but will have his work cut out for him, trying to thrash out a plan with state and territory leaders. The government is expected to put pressure on the states to cap coal.
Victoria Police have slapped 7 red light fines on cars involved in August's funeral procession for Uncle Archie Roach. In a statement, police say they have reviewed 3 of the fines at the request of drivers, but they've refused to overturn them, citing the seriousness of the offence. Police say they offered funeral organisers police assistance for the movement through Melbourne's area, but it was declined.
The Northern Territory Health Department has declared the current extreme heat wave affecting large parts of northern Australia as an emergency. Well above average temperatures are expected across Queensland, the Northern Territory and Western Australia today.
And in some sad news, Celine Dion has cancelled her 2023 tour dates after being diagnosed with the rare neurological disorder stiff person syndrome. Dion revealed via Instagram that she's been suffering from muscle spasms that are impacting her ability to sing and walk.
Wow, what a thing to happen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now, moving on with the news, let's go to our next news. Where thousands of homes are without power in southeast Queensland amidst this heat.
We had 40 tasks last night out of the storms. I was expecting quite a few more actually, but most of the tasks the SES had in southeast Queensland last night were associated with the strong winds from the storms.
Were you expecting that the workload would be greater just because of the stories that you were hearing about the lightning? It sounded as though it was a light show for quite some time, and that power surges indeed ended up causing many of people's electrical appliances to spring into action overnight.
Yeah, look, I was occasionally looking on the radar at the storms, and just the intensity of the rainfall I thought would have led to more flash flooding than it actually did. But I was quite surprised. The actual wind did most of the damage that we could ascertain. Anyway, a lot of trees down. They were blocking access to people's properties and on roofs and such, but not as many as I thought by looking at the radar through the middle of the night.
Well, that is some good news. You said that you had about 40 jobs as a result. Were there any injuries?
Not that I know of. But having said that, we're expecting similar this evening. So we're just asking residents of southeast Queensland, particularly to make those preparations this afternoon should we be faced with the strong winds as forecast again. And there's also that added factor of the large to giant hail, which the Bureau have indicated may be possible as well. So anything you can do this afternoon to prepare your properties would be greatly appreciated, and ensure the safety of your family.
How much information do you have about the likely area where these storms could eventuate?
From what we've gathered from the stuff the Bureau has provided today, it's anywhere from, I guess, from Rockhampton through the Central Highlands and down through the Sunshine Coast, Brisbane, Gold Coast, and out through the Lockyer Valley. So anywhere in that area, the severe thunderstorms probable. And just outside of that, there's some possibility of some severe thunderstorms as well. So it's quite a large area. Whether the whole area gets affected or not, we'll wait and see. But generally, if you're in southeast Queensland, even the Sunshine Coast area, I urge you to do some preparation this afternoon, should we see them tonight.
And hopefully that weather does subside by this afternoon, as they said. Well, right now, half of Tasmania households are dealing with food insecurity. This is another damning report.
As pressure is heaped on household budgets, Tasmanians are reconsidering their need for food.
You go in and something might be $2 dearer. In a week, I spend about $120 more than I used to pay.
More and more are going without.
Sometimes we don't have enough food at home, and so I will have to go without lunch or something.
A report from the University of Tasmania found 1 in 2 Tasmanian households experienced food insecurity during the month, which means they struggled to put food on the table, compared to just 27% in May 2021. Young adults were the most affected, followed by the unemployed, temporary residents, single parents, people with a disability, and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people.
Given that it's about a lack of financial or other resources for food, it's pretty safe to say it's been driven largely by cost of living.
1 in 5 Tasmanians are skipping meals or going hungry, nearly 3 times more than last year.
And the fact that 1 in 5 Tasmanians is suffering severe food hunger on a weekly basis should be a grave concern to all Tasmanians.
The report found only 10% of people in severe food stress actually access emergency relief, either because they don't know about it, they think there are people worse off than them, or they think that there's some stigma attached to doing so. The government acknowledged more needed to be done to improve access to help and have pledged more money to relief organisations.
We'll keep on listening to the evidence around the needs of Tasmanians.
Without intervention, the report warns things aren't going to get better anytime soon. Will Murray, ABC News.
Prevention is needed, and to think about that, there are people starving on our streets. It is very, very concerning. There's something that really, really needs to be done in that area. Well, right now, let's go to South Australia, where they expand the eligibility for Japanese antigen vaccine.
The Japanese encephalitis virus vaccine has been made available to more people as river levels continue to rise here along the Murray River in South Australia. Previously, it was only available to people who lived along the Murray River or who came up here for work frequently and worked outdoors. That's now been extended to people who are emergency workers and also people who come up here and have shacks and holiday here on the weekends. The Japanese encephalitis virus can be quite serious. It is a serious disease that can be fatal or cause permanent impairment, but that is very rare, and most cases in people are asymptomatic. As a result of that, health authorities are asking people in the Riverland to get a blood test which will show whether they are actually carrying Japanese encephalitis but don't know about it. It's all about knowing how many people have the disease, how prevalent it is, and perhaps how many mosquitoes are carrying the disease as well. Also here in the Riverland, power has been disconnected to some areas, some homes, shacks and horticulture properties. The current gold standard, according to Energy Minister Tom Koutsantonis, is 2 days for power to be turned off to a property, but the ABC has heard reports of that being no notice at all or very little notice. As the river continues to rise, more places will lose power, so it remains to be seen where that will be.
So, these days there are so many different kind of viruses, influenzas and COVID. You can't be, overcautious. So in any case, any circumstances, please do get yourself checked. Please check and double check. I can say from experience that it is a very, very comforting thing once you get your results and you know exactly where you are. So if you've got any kinds of symptoms, always please do the right thing, get yourself checked. Well, right now, let's go to Melbourne, where Melbourne's South Sudanese community say it's time to break the silence around mental health.
I've been spending time in Melbourne's South Sudanese community, where depression and mental illness are having fatal consequences. According to community health groups, suicide is one of the leading causes of death among young men here. And since the COVID pandemic, community leaders say there's been a spate of mental health related deaths. We started at a local basketball training session in Melbourne's southeast. Nabil Amum is watching on. His son Oyidi used to play here.
Oyidi is a very friendly young person. He likes hanging around. He's very friendly. He's a very vibrant, and he always like a sport. And he's a very social person. So he like being in a community, involved in youth leadership, and always been loving. He love basketball. When he come to us and say that this is form here, I'm going to play basketball college in the United States. So we were so excited that...
With the world at his feet, Oyidi returned from college in the United States in 2020 because of COVID-19 lockdowns. But his mental health soon took a turn for the worse.
In March 2021, there was an episode. He thought he wanted to take his life. Life is not worthy. And so then we say, what's going on? Why? What happening? Then he was admitted to hospital in 3 weeks, or less than 3 weeks from the time he was discharged from hospital. So then he took his life. Then when police come and knock, it was a bad experience. This is something actually I would not forget in my life.
Suicide in the South Sudanese Australian community is relatively prevalent, or it's around, isn't it?
It's in fact, the suicides and mental health in general in the South Sudanese, particularly the young male, is something is completely out of control. Young people are taking their lives.
What's up? What's up? You're growing tall, yeah? Huh? You're growing tall.
Nabil now attends every training session of his son's old team.
After play and before they play, this is always we talk to them like they look after each other. They need to always to communicate to each other.
Hey James.
It is a growing concern, and it is good to see that is being addressed in mental health. No community is immune from that. Well, right now, moving on, let's go to Northern Australia, where extreme temperatures are being seen. Well, someone said to me today in the lift that, my God, it's quite warm. I say, yeah, it's been a long time coming for me.
Temperatures are expected to swelter up to 45 degrees Celsius for some parts of the Northern Territory like Mataranka and Largermanu in the coming days. Already we've seen those temperatures go past that 40-degree mark. Alice Springs saw a 43-degree day just the other day. Now there is a new heatwave warning system that has been introduced here in the Northern Territory. It's similar to that bushfire warning system where there are 3 levels. There's advice, watch and act and emergency. Now we've already seen a watch and act alert issued earlier this week for nearly every single part of the Northern Territory. And in the coming days, as those conditions worsen, we are expecting an emergency alert to be issued as well. So authorities are warning people to heed the advice, to make sure that they look out for any signs of heat stress, whether that be fatigue or dizziness. Heat waves are actually one of Australia's most deadly natural hazards. So authorities are asking people to stay cool and stay hydrated.
Staying hydrated is the key, and once again, easily said than done, but always try and do the right thing. Well, right now, let's go to Western Sydney, where the Parramatta Light Rail trams have arrived.
In the driver's seat of the future of transportation spreading to Sydney's west.
4,000 tonnes of Australian steel, 16 stations, 14 of them are finished.
But we don't build infrastructure for the sake of it. We build these projects to transform people's lives.
But delays mean stage 1 of the Parramatta Light Rail won't be moving until 2024. That's a long time, according to some businesses impacted by the build.
Even a small bit of help is nice, rather than a pat on the back and saying, we know it's tough, but you'll get through this.
Some on Church Street in the heart of Parramatta don't know if they'll survive.
Slowly it's get better,
but it still is not that enough for business.
The trams will run between Westmead and Carlingford. They're made by the same Spanish manufacturer that built the Inner West light rail. But last year those trams developed extensive cracking and have only recently returned to service after repairs. The government insists the design for Parramatta's trams has been updated.
You can never guarantee that any car or any bit of infrastructure is going to be perfect.
They cannot guarantee that the same thing won't happen again.
Stage 2 of this project will connect Parramatta's CBD with Sydney Olympic Park, but it's still in its planning stage and has been delayed, meaning it could be around 10 years away.
It's great we got this far, but it actually doesn't all make sense until we can get all the way to Olympic Park.
Transport links wanted now. Rani Hayman, ABC News, Sydney.
And good reporting there once again by Rani. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now, Brisbane is the hub for the state emergency or energy matters and the meetings happening right here.
This is one of two meetings that's taking place over the next couple of days. We have the Energy Ministers meeting today and we have National Cabinet, which is meeting virtually tomorrow because the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has COVID and is isolating at Kirribilli. The idea is that the Energy Ministers today will be discussing the capacity mechanism, which is the mechanism that essentially keeps gas in particular in Australia for domestic use. But they'll also certainly be discussing the potential intervention into the energy market that the government has promised it will action before Christmas this year. It's looking likely that will be a price cap, but there is a sort of hold up from the states on that. But first, let's take a listen to Chris Bowen talking about the capacity mechanism earlier today.
There's a real spirit of cooperation around the table, recognising that we must work together on these very big challenges, and I expect that will play out again today. And our main job today is to settle something that's been in the too hard basket for too long, what's called a capacity mechanism. It's really a keep the lights on mechanism to ensure that our transition to renewables happens more quickly and in a more orderly fashion. We've been working very, very hard on that, and I'll be looking to take that agreement to the next steps with my state and territory colleagues today.
Dana, what would a plan to keep power prices down look like?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's looking pretty likely that it will be a price cap because the government wants a regulatory intervention, not something like a windfall tax on profits. At the moment, we understand a potential cap of between $125 and $160 per tonne on coal has been floated with the New South Wales government. They're currently in a negotiation phase with the government, with the federal government, as to whether or not they'll accept that. But of course, the issue here for the states, particularly those coal-producing states, is that they're set to make a lot of money from the high price of coal and gas at the moment. So essentially, they're wanting the government to compensate them for lost royalties if a price cap comes into effect. The government's indicated it's open to that, and it's likely something that they will be discussing at both the Energy Ministers meeting today and National Cabinet tomorrow. We'll hopefully hear something from the Federal Energy Minister, Chris Bowen, this afternoon after the meeting concludes.
Dana Morse reporting from Canberra.
Just a reminder, that meeting is happening right here in Brisbane today. Well, all the energy ministers together with the Federal Energy Minister undergo that. Well, before we go to our daily India report, we have to look at this release of the Bali bomb maker.
Paul Vanni lost 6 mates from his Coogee Dolphins rugby league club in the Bali attacks. News of the bomb maker's release is incomprehensible.
For this assassin to be let out of prison is just an absolute disgrace.
From jail, Umar Patek insisted he was a changed man, remorseful and no longer a terrorist. Prison authorities in East Java agreed. Remissions for good behaviour cut his original sentence by almost half, and he was quietly released. But claims of reform don't wash with some survivors, including Anthony Svilicic, who spent 44 days in a coma and had to learn to walk again.
Certainly a kick in the guts for everyone that was there on the night and who is still suffering in some way, shape or form.
There's a history of people like him. They won't stop. You know, for him to be let out, it's laughable.
The Australian government says it's made clear to Indonesia its objections.
My personal view is his actions are inexcusable and completely abhorrent.
we don't control the Indonesian justice system.
Our particular representations have gone to seeking reassurances that he'll continue to be monitored and appropriate protections will be in place.
If he tries to go back to those old networks, he's going to be found out, he'll be under surveillance, so the risk is fairly low.
Reformed terrorist Ali Fauzi says Umar Patek has been successfully de-radicalised and can do good outside jail.
I believe that Umar Patek is a changed man, and his loyalty to Indonesia surpasses all others.
A disappointing outcome for Bali bombing survivors, who can only trust Indonesian authorities have made the right decision.
Well, once again, as I mentioned before, that how do we know that he's not going to do that again? There are some people, the argument some people had there was that once they do it, they'll always do it, getting out, trying to, on good behavior, but time will tell. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to go to our daily India report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and more on India and the Indian diaspora. My name is Aditi. External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar has reaffirmed India's position that it won't tolerate unilateral changes to line of actual control by China. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jai Shankar on December 7th said that India will not tolerate any unilateral attempts by China to alter the status quo at the LAC. He was responding to queries in Parliament regarding the situation at the line of actual control with China. He reaffirmed the government's position and elaborated on how Beijing's aggression has hampered bilateral relations. Jai Shankar said, diplomatically, we have been very clear with the Chinese that we will not tolerate, we will not countenance unilateral attempts to change the LAC, and that so long as they continue to seek to do that, and if they have built up forces which in our minds constitute a serious concern in the border areas, then our relationship is not normal. The two sides engaged each other at diplomatic and military levels to reduce tensions and reach an understanding. But despite 4 rounds of disengagement from Galwan Valley, Pangong Lake, Gogra and Hot Springs, India and China still have some 60,000 troops each and advanced weaponry deployed in Ladakh. Last month, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Chinese President Xi Jinping briefly on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Bali, Indonesia. Both sides said the two leaders exchanged pleasantries, but no other details about the conversation were divulged. In the latest trends in counting of votes, BJP is set to return to power for a record time in Gujarat, as Congress looks to claim Himachal Pradesh State Assembly. Counting of votes for a new assembly in Gujarat got underway on 8 December, with the trends pointing out to a sweeping victory for the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, which has not lost an election in the state since 1995. The latest trends show the BJP taking a lead in Gujarat, while the Congress is maintaining a comfortable lead in Himachal Pradesh. The voter turnout in Gujarat was about 64.65% in both phases. Meanwhile, Himachal Pradesh's voter turnout was over 74%. According to the Election Commission website, at 2:20 p.m. IST, Indian Standard Time, the BJP was leading in 132 seats and had already won 25 seats, while Congress was ahead in 14 seats and had won 2 seats, and the AAP was leading in 5 seats. The mood is upbeat at the BJP party's office in Gandhinagar as trends show BJP surging ahead of Congress and AAP on Prime Minister Modi's home turf. In Himachal Pradesh, Indian National Congress surged ahead as it was leading in 32 seats and had already won 7 seats, while the BJP was leading in 18 seats and had won 8 seats. India's Sukhoi 30 combat aircraft is getting equipped with an over 250-kilometer range missile to boost Air Force strike capability. The Indian Air Force is equipping the Russia-made Sukhoi 30 combat aircraft fleet with a new missile that can take down ground-based targets from a distance of over 250 kilometers. The new missile has been acquired by the IAF under emergency provisions and will further enhance the capabilities of the Su-30 fighter jets, which are now the mainstay of the force for at least the next 20 years.
The capability to hit targets at over 250 kilometers would allow the Indian Air Force to strike down enemy military camps and terrorist infrastructure, as it did during the Balakot operations in 2019 from well within its own territory. The new missile would be important for the Su-30 fleet of the IAF, as integrating long-range missiles of European or American origin would not be easy in view of the global situation. The IAF is also upgrading the Su-30s in an upgrade program expected to cost over Rs 30,000 crores and would begin with 85 planes. The IAF presently has around 260 of these heavy air superiority fighter jets, which are now flying in sync with the most modern Rafale fighter planes. The IAF has strengthened the capabilities of the Su-30s in a big way, with the addition of the BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles, which can hit targets at over 500 kilometers. The air-to-air missiles have also seen an upgrade, while the Made in India Astra, all-weather beyond visual range air-to-air, and Rudram anti-radiation next-generation missiles have been added to the fleet.
Aam Aadmi Party wins the Delhi Municipal Corporation elections, defeating the BJP and sending strong signals to the Modi government at the centre about people's mood at the Indian capital.
Arvind Kejriwal-led Aam Aadmi Party on 7 December dislodged the BJP from power in the Municipal Corporation of Delhi, giving it control over key civic sectors in the city such as waste management, primary education and collection of property tax. Delhi State Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal thanked the people of Delhi for AAP's victory and sought the cooperation of the BJP and the Congress, as well as the blessings of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to improve civic amenities. With 250 wards in the MCD, the AAP won 134, while the BJP won 104, the Congress 9 and others 3. On the other hand, 14 of the 104 seats the BJP won were under the AAP's control until now. This was the first election after the MCD was reunified as one. Since Congress divided it into 3 different entities, the polls, which took place on 4th December, saw a voter turnout of only 50.48%. Just over 73 lakh people voted out the total of 1.45 crore eligible voters.
The White House has come out in support of the EAGLE Act, which will be up for a vote in the US House of Representatives. The act phases out the 7% per country limit on employment-based immigrant visas.
As the US House of Representatives is gearing up to vote on the Equal Access to Green Cards for Legal Employment EAGLE Act, the White House has shown support for the passage of this bill. This proposed legislation phases out the 7% per country limit on employment-based immigrant visas or green cards and raises the 7% per country limit on family-sponsored green cards to 15%. Under US immigration laws, 1.40 lakh employment-based green cards can be issued annually. However, only 7% of such green cards can go to individuals from a single country. If the number of individuals being sponsored from a single country is greater than 7% of the annual available total, it results in a growing backlog. The White House has noted the contributions made by immigrants in key sectors and points out that the EAGLE Act will help alleviate the effects of the backlog, which has left thousands of immigrants waiting for years to receive a green card simply because of their country of origin.
Bangladesh clinched yet another one-day international win as it defeated India by 5 runs in the second match of the 3 ODI series.
Bangladesh's off-spin all-rounder Mehdi Hasan Miraz turned out to be India's nemesis for the second time in 2 matches by hitting his maiden one-day international century and picking 2 wickets to help Bangladesh clinch the series with a 5-run victory over India in the second one-day international at the Sher-e-Bangla Stadium on 7 December. Batting first, Bangladesh were reduced to 69 for 6 in 19 overs, but Mehdi, with his unbeaten 83-ball 100 and veteran batsman Mohammedullah, who made a fine 77, stitched a mammoth 148-run stand for the 7th wicket to carry Bangladesh to a respectable 271 for 7 in 50 overs. India were in troubled waters early on as their top order fell flat and they were reeling at 65 for 4 after 19 overs. They were steered out of it by 82 from Shreyas Iyer and run a ball 56 from Akshar Patel, with the duo sharing a 107-run stand. Indian skipper Rohit Sharma, despite an injured left thumb, came in at number 9 and hit an unbeaten 51 off 28 balls in a courageous effort. But Bangladesh kept their nerve to maintain their perfect record of not losing a series at home since October 2016. With 20 needed off the final over, Rohit tried his best but could only manage 14 runs off the over from Mustafizur, giving Bangladesh an unassailable 2-0 lead in the series.
The second song of the film Govinda Naam Mera, titled Kya Baat Hai 2.0, has been released. The song is a remake of the hit dance track by Hadi Sandhu.
Sony Music India has released the second song of the film Govinda Naam Mera, titled Kya Baat Hai 2.0. The original song by Hadi Sandhu was already a hit dance track, but it has now been stylized both look-wise and vocally for the Shashank Khaitan directorial. The video sees both Vicky and Kiara grooving to the beats of the track in snazzy outfits, tipping their hat to that of Jab Tak Hai Jaan of Sholay, where Dharmendra was seen tied to heavy chains as Hema Malini's character Basanti danced her heart out upon Gabbar's instructions. The song has not been really tampered with and still remains a fun track. Crooned by Hadi Sandhu and Nikita Gandhi, Kya Baat Hai 2.0 has been composed by Tanishq Bagchi with lyrics penned by Jani. The track was released with a description that read, "A song that is bound to leave you hitting the rewind button again and again." Kya Baat Hai 2.0 features Vicky Kaushal and Kiara Advani from Govinda Naam Mera. Composed by B. Prog and recreated by Tanishq Bagchi, it is written by Jani. Sung by Hadi Sandhu and Nikita Gandhi. Watch till the end for a surprise twist. Govinda Naam Mera stars Vicky Kaushal, Kiara Advani, Bhumi Pednekar and Dayanand Shetty. It releases on Disney Plus Hotstar on 16th of December.
And that's all in today's bulletin.
Thank you very much for that report today. And today the reporter was by Aditi, and she did a wonderful job, I must say. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to look at the functions and events taking place right here in Brisbane. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to talk to you about this. So this is happening tonight, and you can scan the code to get the ticket, and it is a wonderful show of all the young talent time and Saregama artists from that fame. Tanmay is there as well. So it will be a wonderful show tonight. If you haven't got your tickets yet, please secure your tickets for tonight. And the function is happening at a beautiful venue, the Brisbane Convention Centre. So we'd like to see you all there tonight. So ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you today in this segment. Looking forward to seeing you tonight at the show. Right now, it's time to say goodbye.